Hello, my creeplings. We're back, and I'm actually going to attempt a television series in a way. I don't know if you've heard of Masters of Horror on Showtime. It's an anthology series that ran in the early 2000s. About 2005 to 2007, it had 2 seasons. This is a lot like, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt especially, The Hunger, the television series, I believe that also ran on Showtime. So it's a horror anthology that does 1-hour episodes, or 1 hour-ish. So basically short horror films. This particular series, and we're only doing 1 episode out of it right now. We will do more, but we'll do them on a case-by-case basis. It was thought up by director Mick Garris. And every episode was directed, and in some cases also written or teleplayed by legends in the horror genre. Mick Garris himself, John Landis, Don Coscarelli, Lucky McKee. We're talking all different kinds of shit. John Carpenter, I believe, did one. Tonight's episode came from season 2. And it was episode 6. The title of this one is called Pelts. It was directed by Dario Argento. Now, I'm ashamed to admit this. I watched this for the first time in the early 2000s. It was my first Argento film. I had been aware of Argento for many, many years, but for some reason I had not picked up his stuff. I have since remedied that, and I have watched a few things, and I'm going to watch a few things for this eventually. Some are going to be revisits, some are going to be new to me, but this was my first taste of Argento. It's based on a short story by F. Paul Wilson. The biggest name involved in this is the singer Meatloaf. Now, he never ever considered himself just a singer. He was always an actor and a singer. He just happened to find bigger success with Bat Out of Hell and Bat Out of Hell 2. That is how I know Meatloaf. I know Meatloaf from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I have also watched some of his regular film roles. This man has only sung in 2 films. This is not one of them. Because he wanted to keep his acting career separate from his singing career. We lost him during the pandemic, unfortunately. So nothing new from him. But this is a good one. If you like short form horror, and since this was done for Showtime, the gore is there. The gore on this one was done by Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger. So you know it's gonna be good. So let's backtrack a little bit. This is about an hour long, little over, if I remember correctly. This is the story of a fur coat from start to finish, and the curse that kind of came with it. Meatloaf plays a character named Jake Feldman, who is a fur trader and fur coat designer. He is not very successful. He's obsessed with this stripper named Shauna. But he gets a call one night from, as he puts it, goddamn hillbilly, who's a fur trapper. I'm stuttering. I'm sorry. He is a trapper, a furrier. I think that's the proper term. I am not 100% sure on that. Okay, I feel like I need a disclaimer here. My particular views on fur. In the modern day, I don't like new fur. There's no need for it. I do have a few real fur vintage pieces for costuming pieces, because I don't want to say reenact, but I do go to Renaissance festivals and I play in the Viking world. In ancient times, fur was one of the only ways to keep warm. So nowadays, if I'm choosing a fur item, it is faux. But like I said, I am from the country. I am from Northwest Ohio, where it is mostly farm towns, and hunting is a big thing for us. Sometimes it's the main way some people put meat on their table. Fur is a byproduct of this. Leather is a byproduct of this. I'm accepting of the fact that it exists. I'm not so concerned about only buying fake leather. Again, because we eat meat. That cowhide's got to go to do something. Same thing with deer. But like, I'm not one that's going to be happy with just raising a chinchilla or a fox just to do it in just for its pretty fur coat. I'd rather buy fake. That's my stand on the whole thing. You can massacre me in the comments if you want. I'd love to live in a world where it wasn't a thing, where we didn't feel the need to do it and faux was the only way. But vintage pieces are out there. The animal has already passed. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But going back to this. Excuse me. So the hillbilly fur trapper and his son trespassed on their neighbor's land to trap some raccoons. Well, they got the mother load. These raccoons apparently are extremely beautiful fur. Everybody's obsessed with it. I believe they call it the pine lights. Anyway, so they trap and kill quite a few of these raccoons on their neighbor's land. Now, their neighbor goes by the name of Mother Mater, and you'll find out a little bit more about her and her land and why all these raccoons were there near the end of the short film. So, hillbilly dad and his son go out and get those. Dad leaves the son to finish processing, calls Jake, and says, like, hey, I've got the mother load of these beautiful raccoon pelts. This is also the middle of the night when he calls him, and the trapper is drunk off his ass. Well, I'm sorry. I burped. I apologize. So, next day, Jake Feldman goes out to buy these raccoon pelts. And the dad's dead and so's the kid. And I believe not all in flashbacks. We actually see the son killing the dad by beating him in the head with a baseball bat, like he was shown to do by his father for the more peppery, i.e. the more ornery raccoons that don't want to die. It's like the son is taken over by some force that's like, oh, these pelts are beautiful. Everyone must die. You find out in flashback how the son died. This is really cool. Raccoon trap, open on a table, just face fucking first into it, man. That was like a really cool effect. Well, Feldman and his assistant, Lou, take the pelts, call the cops from the highway, and I think that's the last we hear of that situation. They bring the pelts to Jake's basically sweatshop. He has like 4 Asian women and his cutter Sergio working for him. And he's got all these plans to make the perfect fur coat for his little stripper that he's obsessed with. She at one point wanted to be a real model and hasn't had a real modeling job in forever. And he's going to have her model it at this big fur expo and all this. So he's like becoming obsessed with it. Lou, not so much. The Asian women don't really want to have much to do with these pelts at first. They see them and they walk back in. So, well, they're starting to work on the coat. Sergio's their cutter. And after he finishes cutting his pieces late one night after work, he's drinking vodka in the car. This guy went out and bought, I don't know if you've seen industrial shears. Those fuckers are like the blade from where the base of the handle is. Not the handle part that you hold on, but where it meets the blade to the tip. Or anywhere from here to here. He got a pair that's about like this big. Again, this is a great effect. And the actor who did this played it. My stomach was turning a little bit because he played it so well. He eviscerates himself. Intestines coming. Oh, it was so gross, but so good at the same time. the next step in the process to make this fur coat is the sewing. So again, the 4 Asian women are his seamstress. Jake comes in the next morning to everyone standing over the last seamstress who worked on the coat. She's dead. She suffocated to death. Because this woman, after she finishes hand sewing and everything, decides to sew her nostrils shut, her eyes shut, and her mouth shut. Now, I know you're wondering why your eyes, because you actually do pass a little bit of oxygen and carbon dioxide through your eyes. It's kind of interesting. Again, I have said this before, I have a squick about eyeballs, so I'm so glad they didn't actually show her sewing her eyes shut. They just showed, they show how she did it in flashbacks, but they show her sewing her nose shut, and I'm like, ooh, gross. But it was a nice blend of CGI and some practical effect, and they show her actually showing her mouth. Again, CGI and practical blend, perfectly done. That is one thing that Nicotero and Berger do very well, is blending their CGI with their effects. But they had only shown like her pulling the last string on the eye, because oh god, if I'd have watched that, I probably would have. Not much squicks me, but eyes do. So Jake takes the finished coat to Shauna's apartment, and of course he's been trying to get some from Shayna the whole time. Well, she tries the coat on, and of course she's in love with it. They do the deed. And then he goes to freshen up. He finds a big-ass knife in her kitchen. This fucker skins his torso off. I'm just like, that is fucking cool. There's a lot in this movie that I hadn't seen before, or you don't see often. Like, yeah, you see eviscerations all the time, but how often do you see self-evisceration? And self-flaying. Oh, that's so, oh, it was good. So he tries to, like, again, they're like all in this trance. Now, between when Sergio kills himself, which no one ever notices, or it's never talked about again, and finding the seamstress the next morning, Jake thinks about, you know what? Maybe I should have a pair to keep mating so that he has a constant supply of this fur. So he goes to the hillbilly's house, finds the map where they were trapping, grabs a bottle of hooch off the nightstand, and goes and talks to the neighbor, Mother Mater. Now, Mother Mater is old crone. And basically, I'm going to read this from my notes because I don't think I got everything from this. Okay. She has always warned people off her land, and there's a reason for it. The raccoons have taken up guardianship of this lost city on her land. And, it gives them, I guess, mystical powers to curse people. So she figures out kind of what's going on. You're the one I saw on my land, which actually isn't true. She saw the hillbillies the night before, or the day before, or whatever. And she's like, they have not yet had their say. They are not done with you yet. So apparently all this rash of attempting to kill themselves, or everyone wanting to kill themselves, comes from the raccoons and the curse. I don't know much about this lost city. They didn't go into it. It could be interesting if they wanted to make this into a longer form. Maybe I'll get a hold of the short story eventually and see if this comes up with any more explanation of what this lost city is. But that's why. You go back. So he's trying to offer his torso skin to her to the stripper as, my greatest creation for you, which is just. So, of course, she does what any sane person would do. Granted, she's only in her underwear and her stripper shoes in this coat. She basically runs away screaming, and she tries to get into the elevator, which is one of those old-fashioned cage elevators where it's got the door that closes this way and then the door that closes this way. It's got the lever and the whole 9 yards. He chases her, ends up falling down the shaft onto the top of the elevator and through the open, because apparently the top is open. Old elevators didn't have closed tops. And she goes to escape. And the gate comes down, crushes her hand off, which mimics the earlier scene when they're finding the trapped raccoons. The hillbillies are. One of the raccoons had gnawed his own arm off to get out of the trap, or leg, or whatever. You know, you've heard animals doing that. So she dies of blood loss. He dies of blood loss and shock, and that's the end of the movie, is the aftermath. If you like short form horror, television anthologies, and all that stuff, I would highly suggest this one. I have a few of these I want to go over. Like, I remember the first one of these I watched was the Lucky McKee episode. There is an episode with a certain actor that everyone knows I'm obsessed with in it. Yeah, y'all can call me out on it, but I'm not going to say his name. I am looking forward to a Michigan boy doing a Texas drawl, though. That's going to be interesting. I had seen a handful of these way back when we actually had cable and had Showtime. So this is definitely going to be one series that we go over more. But you can find these. These were released not as like a season collection, but each individual film was released on DVD, or a good handful of them. That's how I got a hold of this. My husband actually rented it once, way back in the early 2000s, from like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or something. And that's what got me watching, or realized I had watched this series before. I'd watched a couple different episodes. So, Masters of Horror, we will definitely continue to go over. Pelts is a good entry. It's a solid entry. I want to make a note, though, about Dario Argento. This is not very Argento-ish, if you're used to his, like, Italian Gallo from, like, the late 70s. This is definitely Argento for American television. Still very good. He's still a very solid director, but I didn't notice a lot of his hallmarks, like the use of color and lighting, or if they were very subtle to the point where they just went right over my head. But again, you can only do so much in an hour-long format for American television, even if it was premium cable at the time. But this was a good entry. Pelts with Meatloaf, directed by Dario Argento. Like I said, season 2, episode 6 of Masters of Horror. Definitely something we will talk about more often, as, you know, I'll pepper a few in here and there. I don't think I'm going to do this one as a big chunk of, we're going to watch this entire series and go over each episode. Some of them I haven't seen yet, and I don't know if I'm going to like them just by looking at the plot synopsis. But I did like this one quite a bit, thanks to the Nicotero and Berger effects and the acting. Even everyone else who was not a major name, although the father and the fur trader, I think I recognized him from somewhere, but I'm not sure. All of them did solid performances. So I do recommend this. If you're wanting a short, you know, just something to watch for a short night, definitely get a hold of some of these Masters of Horror. Pelts is definitely a recommendation. If you want to kind of understand Meatloaf as an actor, because like I said, most people know him as a singer, and that's how I was introduced to him. That and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which kind of singer-actor thing going on at the same time. You know, the only other role he sang in was in Tenacious D's Pick a Destiny, where he played Jack Black's dad. Which, that was fitting. That was fitting. But yeah, he's actually a really solid actor. I also recommend him in Black Dog, too, with Patrick Swayze. This is kind of a similar feel to the character. Maybe not quite so outright bad, but you definitely get that kind of agitated, trying to be alpha male type character, which it fits for this. But since that was such a short one, I definitely am going to get to watching some more movies, so we can have some more chit chats. But if you've, not seen the Masters of Horror series, let me know. We'll discuss it. If you did and you have some some favorite episodes or some that you especially liked, hit me up down there. Let me know so that I can watch them, and then we'll talk about them. Any other anthology series that I'm not aware of? I know there's several iterations of the Twilight Zone. Night Gallery, which is an old one from Rod Serling as well. What I can remember from premium cable, of course, you got the classic Tales from the Crypt. Again, they had a series called The Hunger for 2 seasons on Showtime, which those had some pretty good episodes too. Which one? Oh, and then of course you got Shudder's Creep Show, which I would love to go over too. I think I have all 3 seasons here, because again, Greg Nicotero, big hand in that, and the cast lists on some of the stuff, amazing. And yes, the one episode that did suck me in had that other actor that y'all gonna call me out on. So, yeah. He shall not be named until he needs to be named. But on that note, I'm gonna go watch another movie, probably get a snack and just chill out here, and I will definitely say go and watch this film. It's not a bad little run. It's definitely an interesting take, the whole fur trading and fur industry. It's not something we talk about much anymore. I mean, it's a dying industry because, quality fakes and all of that. And, animal cruelty is a very big thing to consider and talk about now. But go watch this. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend a lot of these Masters of Horror episodes. So, on that note, I'm going to say a good night, my creeplings, and sign it off with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.